Are you ready for some super silky soup? I'm going to show you how to make cream of mushroom with no animal products. Right here, I've got a couple tablespoons of oil sizzling in my pot. This is 1/2 of a red onion and about 10 bell mushrooms, baby bella mushrooms. Stick them into your pot with the oil. Add a little salt. I'm using pink Himalayan. About a 1/2 teaspoon for now. We'll do 1 extra tablespoon of oil for good measure, making it 3 tablespoons. Technically, this is a teaspoon. Here I've got 1 dry cup of cashews and 1/2 ounce of oyster mushrooms that came in a dry package right in the produce section. I decided to add the extra dried mushrooms as well as the baby bella mushrooms to give it that extra umami flavor. If you're unfamiliar with that term, umami is like the earthy, savory, natural flavor of the earth itself. It's really yummy. So I let these soak for about an hour. Now we're going to strain out the liquid, revealing our softened mushrooms. This is an oyster. So it says to rinse these mushrooms. They must be sandy. So we are going to save this liquid to add it to our stock. But I'm adding 2 more cups of water now. In my food processor, I already have 1 head of roasted garlic. Now we're going to add our cashews and oyster mushrooms. Just a dash of the liquid. And whip her up. This just creamed for about 1 minute and it looks good to me. I'm going to move on and add my stock to, I'm adding extra liquid here to make this an even 4 cups of stock that we're adding. We also want to boil a couple bay leaves. Actually, let's make that 3 to 4 bay leaves because mine always come out in a crumble. You want to be careful not to eat these. It's not like they'll make you sick or anything, but they just don't cook up like spinach, you know. They're not very soft. They're going to stay tough. Here comes our cream. I'm also adding 1/2 cup of Brewers yeast. You could also use nutritional yeast. It's nearly the same thing. Brewers yeast is just a little bit higher in protein and other minerals. I go through spells of using different spice combinations, so right now I'm using a paprika, cumin, ginger, cayenne, sage, and cardamom. I would definitely recommend adding the sage. If you got your hands on some oregano, yes, that would be delicious. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of this spice into my soup. Here's what we're looking at right now. Once your soup comes to a boil, you can turn it down to a low heat and let it simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. However thick you're looking for it to get, the longer you simmer it, the thicker it will be. As I'm here waiting for the soup to simmer and thicken up, I'm reading some really interesting things about oyster mushrooms and the benefits of some ingredients in our soup. I've never combined the brewer's yeast with oyster mushrooms, but it's got a really cheesy, almost rotten flavor that's reminiscent of like brie, cheese. Oyster mushrooms are actually a really good source of vitamin D, which obviously we get from the sun, and there's very few plant sources that carry it, and mushrooms are actually a fungi, not a plant. Where I'm living right now, it's pretty cold. I haven't spent a lot of time outside in the sun when it's out because it's still in the 30-degree Fahrenheit temperature range, and I know that my body is definitely lacking in vitamin D, just considering that I am a sun child and I haven't had my time out in the sun lately. The oyster mushrooms are also a really good source of iron, which is responsible for oxygenating your blood. In order to have the best circulation, we need to have a diet very high in iron, which a lot of plants and vegetables and fungi carry. Iron is also responsible for feeding a certain type of cell that we produce that kills viruses and tumor cells. Because like it or not, most of us have just a little bit of cancer inside of us, but it's up to our cells to destroy those cancerous growths. By the way, my birth given name is Allison, Allyson, and there's a component in garlic spelled Allicin. Allicin is the main component in garlic that is responsible for its very distinctive taste and smell. Garlic has been consumed for centuries by the Egyptians, the Chinese. It's as popular as onions throughout history. There are a lot of medicinal benefits associated with the entire bulb. Garlic was literally administered to Olympian athletes in Greece in ancient times. It was one of the earliest performance-enhancing substances consumed among men. So another miracle is that garlic can combat exercise-related fatigue, which is definitely something we all suffer from. If you go for a run, you're going to be tired, but garlic can help you sustain that endurance even longer. I will roast multiple heads of garlic at a time, so I'll have mini cloves on hand, and they taste amazing just as they are. And I know that some of the medicinal properties have kind of dwindled, but they're really easy to get down. They taste like already seasoned potatoes. They're so delicious. And it doesn't burn. Here is the result of about 45 minutes since I've added the stock. Make sure that you're stirring this frequently because the cashews will settle at the bottom of the pan. This turned out so creamy. It's hard to wait for it to cool down, but I got 1 spoonful waiting. That is truly velveteen mushroom cream. Wow. It is so delicious. The soup itself is pretty low maintenance. You just need the patience to wait for it to simmer and thicken up. And look out for those bay leaves. They do not soften up, so try and pick them out of the soup if you can. Bon appetit!